In this lesson, I just want to go through a couple of tips and tricks using handrails. The first one I want to do is basically, if I go to rails by picking points, you will notice over to the side here on my catalogue I have my normal balustrading. Underneath that I've got one called privacy battening, and underneath that I've got shelving. So the first one I want to show you is the privacy battening. So if I include this one here, you'll see it looks more like a fence. So I've actually created that by using a handrail with the horizontal rails. And basically, if you just have a look through these parameters here, you can pause at any time just to get the settings right. You'll achieve the same thing. So I'll just come back up again. That way you can pause and stop the recording. And that way you'll get a piece of material that looks like your battens that you could use for cut-off fencing, because it's got the horizontal 80 or 90 by 20 hardwood battens. You'll notice it's got no posts in it. I'll show you how I use it for privacy screening, such as on windows. So this particular window here in bedroom 1 is an 1818. I don't particularly want that one. I want something a bit smaller. So let's go over to this side of the house. There we go. On bedroom 2 we've got a 1218. Now this could be a covenant situation for the estate you're building in, that you might have to have screenings on your windows so that you can't see into the neighbours' yards. So if I just come and pick 2 points there just outside the window, now just remember it is a 1218. So what I'll do now is I'll just place a camera out there and look at this screening. You'll get the idea. So first of all, yes, it is too high, it's going through the roof, and yes, so are the walls there, so we can look at these walls later. You just have to change the height of the walls to fit in underneath the soffit. But let's come back to the privacy screenings. It's a 1218, so if I go to the properties of that, so I touched it and right clicked, I can then change the handrail height to whatever I want. So let's say I want it 900 high. Then hit OK. Now you'll notice that it has changed here. But what it's done is it's made it 900 high from the base. So the handrails, as you would imagine, are coming from the floor height. So now all I have to do is to right click on it again and use the elevating option and say, okay, I want to lift that up. I'll lift it up 1200 to see how I go. And there I got it right the first go, and it's sort of sitting up underneath the eaves, and it looks like a privacy screening. Now that's one tip for you. The second tip, I'll just move out a little bit and I'll just put my terrain on for no other purpose other than to give you something to look at. The other thing I use my privacy screening for, my handrails for, is for shelving. Now under shelving, or how Cadsoft have got it in Envisioneer, is under interiors, and I believe it's under interior accessories, or is it in furniture? There you go, it's in furniture. So as you can see from the bottom picture, it's a shelf with a hanging rail in it. So if you want to use that way, you go and you can start putting your shelving in wherever you want it. But as you can see on the screen now, it's going to put it in 900 millimeter sections, or you can go to the 1200, 1500, and you can use that as much as you like. I just want to show you how mine works using the rails. So if I go back to railings now, select shelving, and I'll just pull this out just a touch so you can see it a bit more. Okay, so now I've got robe shelving. You'll see there's my shelving. I've got walk-in robe shelving, which is 500 wide. I've got pantry shelving, so pantry shelving, you'll notice there it is there. I've got 4 shelves high. So if I go for that one, and I can just put it in, so you can just pick points, and there you go. I've just picked a couple of points, and there's my shelving sitting on the ground. Now I'll just delete those. I'll go back to a 2D plan here, and I'll come across to this robe. Now the robe is basically 530 inside, so if I go to my robe shelving, what I might do is actually, I've got a linen press there as well, but I'll put both of them in. So I've got a robe 530 wide. If I move over to the wall and move my mouse until that little X disappears, that's the midpoint of that wall. So that shelving is going from that point to that point. Right click and finish, the shelf is in there. If I go and grab my linen and I want 530, that's the one I want, and I want to go in from that point to that point. Now if I go and create a section through there, I'll just pick a point there and a point there, and I'll look at the end of the cupboard, and there you have it. If I zoom in on that, there's my section with my 4 shelves. Now the next thing you need to know is that's the easy way of putting it in, because we've got a linen press or a robe that's 530 wide that creates that midpoint of the wall. What happens when we've got a situation like a walk-in robe down here? Now the walk-in robe, I want to put one shelf in there, and I haven't got a midpoint of the wall because I don't want to go from the midpoint of this wall or the midpoint of this wall. So what I do in that case is, if you revert back to my tips and tricks on walls, I have a 0 width construction line. Now if I use that 0 width construction line, now remember I'm just sort of putting this in as construction temporary work. I'll click on that and make that construction line 250. That gives me a point to pick at both ends for my 500 wide shelf. So if I just go 250 and 250, that sets that up. Then I come over to my rails, find my 500 wide walk-in robe shelf, that's what the WIR stands for, and then I've got that point, and that point, and you can see it miters it and turns it around the corner. So now what I need to do is to actually turn off the shelving. Now don't fall into the trap and look here for shelving, it's not shelving. Yeah, I use handrails for it, so I'm just turning the rails off, and I'm doing that so that I can actually come in and select those construction lines and delete them. Now if I go back and turn my handrails on, I can then also come and have a look. We might just place a camera in here and just look through that square set opening, and there's my shelving inside the walk-in robe. So that's a couple of tricks that you can use for using shelving. So you've got the privacy battening, and you've also got the shelving to use. That's all for this lesson. Thank you very much.